you think so far has been the biggest thing that's happened in the offseason for the Cowboys? And don't say the Michael Irvin thing.
I don't even know the full story. It just hit me. So I said, man, everybody talking about Michael Irvin. Did he say something outlandish about the coaching staff? It's something to do with a lady.
Yep.
Well, the biggest offseason thing that we can see is we going back to West Coast offense, and we got a new situation that Mike McCarthy will be calling the play.
Obviously, when that news broke that Kellen Moore was gone, I was talking to non-Cowboy fans about it, and they were trashing the fact that we got rid of Kellen Moore, and they were saying all this stuff. I actually have a certain thought about Mike McCarthy, thinking that having him come in and be the play caller and simplifying the offense for Dak and kind of not saying going back to the foundation, but allowing him to kind of seem to get his refooting. I was not opposed to it. I think we need to try something different.
Let's make it more simple for Dak Prescott. Coming out of college, he wasn't a high volume passing guy, supposedly. He's supposed to be anywhere between 24 to 27 attempts. Let's get that going. And on top of that, if I look at Dak Prescott's complete resume, he plays pretty well off of play action. So put Dak Prescott in the good old Russell Wilson system from the year of 2017 to, I believe, the year 2020. Mm-hmm. I think Ron Schottenheimer was the guy that was calling the plays. Let's put Dak in that system.
Yep.
I think that's what they're going to do.
Well, someone I'd seen a meme, and it had showed Brian Schottenheimer's tenure jumping from OC to quarterbacks coach, and between each era that he was or team he was with, there was like in red writing saying something bad about it, and they had beside the Seahawks time of he didn't let Wilson cook, and it's the exact opposite. Wilson had a couple very stellar seasons under Schottenheimer. I think one year he threw 40 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. If we even remotely get that from Dak, I'm considering this a win.
Take that option away from Dak Prescott of being the guy that you got to put everything on his back. Let's give this team a strong run game. Let's play some sound defense, and let's go.
I have a question here about just the offensive difference. You know, I'm a second-year football vet. Like where I really actually have cared about watching football before is mostly Madden, fantasy football, and like I hopped around from team to team. But since we started doing this cast together, I've really been caring about football.
Give some backstory though. So I'll give you some backstory though, Law. So the guys over there together, they started off the podcast with me. They were the bandwagon boys. They basically came on just expecting to kind of produce a show, right? And now over the last couple of years, they talk more Cowboys football than I'd say 95% of the public out there. So now they're Cowboys fans, right? So when they say 2 years, it's a diehard 2 years. Let's just say that.
Well, that's what I mean. And lots to learn. I pick up things a lot quickly because of that fantasy history and playing Madden. So what is the biggest difference from what Kellen Moore was calling to what potentially we'll see with Mike McCarthy's West Coast offense?
Well, we ran a lot of vertical routes. So when you think of that, with the option routes, the stop routes, 4 curl routes, so that the famous play of Kellen Moore would be that you give the option to the wide receiver to find a soft spot in the zone, to option it off, whether or not it's a dig route or a post route. So that's a lot of pressure on the wide receivers. That's why we've seen Jalen Tolbert not being able to pick this up, Simi Fehoko not being able to pick this offense up. And it takes a good nuanced route runner to do that. And it's strange to me that we are ranked bottom half of the league in yards and separation from wide receivers, and that's because they are thinking, I want my guys to have a free flow. So when you look at West Coast offense, that's short to intermediate, and that is a lot of underneath passes, comfortable passes like your screen, your tunnels, passes and things like that. So it should be a quicker game for the Cowboys so that you don't have Dak Prescott overanalyzing and overthinking.
Well, and I think you saw a lot of Dak's interceptions this year caused by that indecision by wide receiver and quarterback. Like, it just seemed like a lot of the time when the ball was getting away from him across the middle, or in like the playoff game with Michael Gallup playoffs, there was just a disconnect between the wide receivers and the quarterback that just never seemed to really gel. And like you were saying with the West Coast offense, it's basically, okay, run to this spot as fast as you can.
Right.
Be there. I'm going to throw the ball there. Don't even think about it. Just be in your spot.
Yeah, so you don't want to ask your wide receivers to do too many things. Think about A.J. Brown. Shout out to them. They going to the Super Bowl, but they didn't
fuck them.
A.J. Yeah. I wanted to say that, but here's the thing: they didn't ask A.J. to run hitches. They didn't ask him to run option routes, slants, nines, tunnel. That's all he have to run, those 3 routes. So when we look at the Cowboys, we pretty much ask our star-studded wide receivers to do everything. Granted, CeeDee Lamb went from being the number 2 wide receiver to the number 1. Michael Gallup went from being the number 3 wide receiver to the number 2. And then my guy Noah Brown went from the 4th or the 5th option to number 2 and sometimes the 3rd option.
Yep.
You're not going to get good productions out of that.
Well, and that's I think we can talk all day about changing the offensive coordinator, and that's what I wanted to see too. I mean, I didn't really have McCarthy picked, but the more and more I heard about it, I was like, okay, that's probably how things are going to turn out. But we need to find weapons, and the draft is a risky place, but you can also find straight gold.
You have to, though. That's how you have to find your.
You have to.
Sure, it might. You like a Jalen Tolbert is risky. Maybe I thought he was going to probably be our best rookie last year. It didn't pan out. He still has a chance, but you're right. Yeah, the draft has to be the place that we're trying to build.
Free agency ain't too deep, but there are some guys you can get. I don't think Cowboys are going to be able to make the play. Like the dollar value for him is just going to be too high.
Like, you mean for
the
cap space is we're not going to be able to bring someone in that's going to change it.
I got something. Do you extend Dak Prescott to get some of that relief fund, or do you keep him and then do you cut Ezekiel Elliott to get that relief fund? Those are options right now, because against the cap, Dak Prescott is going to count $49 million.
Yep.
On top of that, DeMarcus Lawrence going to count right at $25 million. So that's a lot of money on guys that you really want to say to yourself, do you extend those guys, or do you live with the cap pain? Because that's the reality of it. What do you guys do?
It's tricky, man. It's a really tricky situation. And with the Zeke thing, I've been a diehard Zeke fan since he's been on the Cowboys. He's been my favorite player. I've probably defended him more than any player in these last few years. I do think might be the time. This might be finally the time you move on from Zeke. I think the running back depth in this year's draft is so good that I believe we could find someone to be good enough in his place. So I think, with regarding Zeke, I think this is finally the year maybe we do move on from him.
And Dowdle showed up. He can play like was it Dowdle or
Malik?
Yeah,
Malik Davis.
Davis.
Sorry, Dowdle got injured, right?
Yeah,
Dowdle and Davis.
Yeah.
But he showed up. He can play. So I think we do just need to find that solid second person behind second RB behind Pollard if he is in fact going to be franchised. Because I've said it before and I'm still sticking to it. I mean, anything we can do to get rid of Zeke for as much as we can, and if that's just cap.
But would you take if he takes a pay cut? Are you willing to keep him? I don't. That's even then. I don't even know. But it's one of those things.
Perhaps it would have to be like $5 million.
Yeah,
well,
$5 million is what you pay him.
I guess I got a question for you, Law, and with the Zeke specifically, and this is, and again, what you read on the internet isn't always true.
It's not.
So,
whoa, wait a second. What? It's not. It's not.
No, it's not.
This guy out of here.
Yeah. So when you hear things like Ezekiel Elliott, leader in the locker room, obviously he has tenure on that team. How important is that to keep a guy like Zeke around, even if he decides to take a little bit of a pay cut to stay on the team? We have a lot of young talent on.
Crack him if you got him, son.
We have a lot of young talent on the Cowboys that do need that leadership. We saw Ty come in, and all of a sudden, CeeDee Lamb's like, I learned more in one game or 1 week with Ty than I have in my last 3 years. Again, he could be giving us some fluff service here, but do you think when we look at next year in a short window, if we want to go long term, get rid of Zeke, start doing the rebuild, etc. But right now with our current team, do you think it's valuable to have a locker room guy like Zeke still on the team?
Yeah, 12 touchdowns is 12 touchdowns. He had 12 of them last year.
Yep.
And I'm not going to sneeze on Ezekiel Elliott because he was great up until the point we had to play against the Detroit Lions and his knee got snapped up.
Yep.
And I would look at Ezekiel as a guy that Jerry Jones, he don't like Zeke. He loves Zeke.
Yeah.
So he's going to try his best to protect Zeke. You see the difference in the storylines on how Jerry Jones approached Ezekiel versus, let's say, Adez Bryant or Amari Cooper. So it's going to be a situation whereas I think that he may take the pay cut to stay in good graces with the Cowboys, but you need him because one thing you don't want to do is go into the 2023 season just like we did this past season. Remember, we got rid of Amari Cooper and we replaced him with James. Y'all say it with me.
Yeah.
Washington.
Jalen Tolbert. So those two guys were inexperienced. So what you don't want to do is lean on a Gibbs or whoever we may draft in the draft and say, okay, rookie, let's make it happen. And then the first play or the third play in the first week, there's a whiff on the block. And now we all singing the tunes and playing the taps of the quarterback.
Yep.
Because he missed the block. And that's what happened literally. That's what happened literally to Tony Romo in 2015. We just never had things to match. 2015, we had the best defense that the Dallas Cowboys been waiting for, but our quarterback was gone.
Yep.
2014, our offensive player of the year was DeMarco Murray. See, we should have extended DeMarco Murray in 2013 and not allow him to be the guy that he was in 2014 and play that crazy good year. And now we was like, we don't want to pay you. And then there was a guy by the name of Joseph Randall.
The underwear thief. Call him by his real name.
The underwear thief. He stole some cologne and some drawers.
He needed the cologne for the drawers, man.
Yeah, he must have messed himself. He did something worse than whatever Michael Irvin got into.
Oh, jeez.
That Joseph Randall, his post NFL story is a podcast in its own. That guy has had a very interesting post playing.
Colorful.
Well, it's depressing. It's crazy. But you're right. If you don't have someone proven and you let someone like Zeke go, like you said, he had 12 touchdowns last year. The year before, I think he had 10. 22 touchdowns over 2 years is tough to replace. And he's a great blocker.
Yeah, fullback Zeke. So I wouldn't get rid of everything because you still got to answer the bell with Tony Pollard. I'm not a big fan of franchise tagging, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Will give us a reason why. Just too much risk for the player, for the team just not getting a benefit out of it, or what's your reasoning?
Well, I look at it like check cash and title loan places. I don't know if they have that in Canada, but what it is that when you go there. So. Yeah, it's a detriment. You pay too much money for 1 year. You can't prorate the doggone money. You can't spread it out. It's a one-hit deal. And it also tells the player that, hey, we like you, but we don't love you.
Yep.
And we got something that we holding against you. So we will pay you if you can do the same thing you did for me last year. That don't work real well.
But I think that you got it for the Cowboys. They're probably a little shy about doing a second long-term contract with another running back. At the same time, anyways, having those two simultaneous contracts with Zeke and Tony Pollard, like the franchise makes. I totally agree. Like all those, like it doesn't feel good for the player.
No, for the player, for the player, it's the worst possible thing.
You got to think. For me, I always think coming from the mind of Jerry Jones. Okay. Now, what I want to do, because what's coming up?
Are you wearing your AT&T hat?
Of course.
Yeah, you're wearing your AT&T Stadium hat, aren't you?
I'm a fan of the biz. but if you make the argument that Zeke makes the cut for whatever amount, it frees up some space, and we got TP 20 and Zeke back there with Davis in the wings. Okay, but you have to do something for those wide receivers. I think we're comfortable with offensive line at this point. We'll see what happens in this offseason. And tight ends, I mean, we got a lot of promise there, but
right.
CD needs some help. I don't think that we found that number 2 yet. Michael Gallup maybe will come up and
I think he has a better year, a lot better year next year.
I don't want to assume that, because I think he was there making those big plays, but we need someone to come out and challenge. I would rather go out and try to find the number 2 and then hope that now we have a competition between Gallup and that number 2.
Right.
I get with what you're saying, looking at that picture. Nevertheless, when you get hurt, the Cowboys tend to pay you.
Yep.
Michael Gallup, he got hurt, they paid him. Dak Prescott, he got hurt, they finally paid him. Now you look at Tony Pollard, now he's hurt, now the Cowboys thinking about paying him. So it's a known trend. And I get what you're saying.
I want me some glory hole.
So Jerry did this before, way back in the days with Barry Church. He got hurt and he paid him.
Yep.
He didn't franchise tag him, but he paid him. I would prefer that angle, because now you know what you can get out of Tony Pollard. He would be even more explosive in a West Coast scheme or system. Think of Roger Craig back in the day with the 49ers. I think that Tony Pollard would be a better version of that, but the only problem that's hanging over our head is that we waited too late, just like we did with Donovan Wilson. We waited too late. You got to start willing and dealing and paying guys before they get to the end of life on their contract.
So it's actually kind of funny you bring that up, because I was going to talk about Trevon Diggs possibly, and it's kind of different because obviously he's already secured himself a huge payday. I think what you were kind of saying with Wilson and Pollard is we probably could have got a discount on those guys a couple years ago if we extended them. With Trevon Diggs, you're not getting no discount, but I think we're at that point this season that he's going to be looking for some sort of extension.
Right. He's going to be looking at Denzel Ward's money,
right?
Over there in Cleveland. So it's going to be hard for us, because at the end of the day, he may be, believe it or not, one of the better DBs we ever drafted in Cowboys history, outside of Mel Renfro and maybe Everson Walls. We don't have a good track record of drafting defensive backs, believe it or not, when you really think about it. Byron Jones, we liked him, but we moved him to safety. And then on top of that, Terrence Newman, he was pretty solid. But I think that my guy, Trevon Diggs, already leaped over those two guys.
What about Awuzie? Do you wish we would have kept him? Do you think I think he was probably one of the top guys we've drafted in a long time, and we just let him go. And that could have been a casualty of possibly a Zeke contract and a Dak contract type thing.
Or an injury, right? He got hurt that year.
That's true. He was out for a bunch of games the last years. But speaking of Diggs, do you worry about his tackling? I'm one of the types that when I'm watching the games and we're live streaming the games and he does his little I get it. He's there to shut down receivers, but it kind of irks me when he's not at least attempting to attack and tackle the player that's running right beside him. Does that bug you at all? Does that make you nervous about him at all? Or are you just like, no, he's here to shut down their number one. He's there to get the ball. He's there to stop half of the field from having production on it.
Yeah, when I talked to George Teague, and he loved Alabama DBs, and I said, man, what's your evaluation of Trevon Diggs? Will he tackle? He said, that kid will not tackle. He can't bust a play. And George Teague, he's speaking the truth about that. And what I wanted Trevon Diggs to do in that game is to play Trevon Diggs' game. Don't get into the mindset to say, hey, I got to make these tackles because then he will overcompensate. And he didn't want to tackle Kittle.
No.
He closed his eyes and leaned with his shoulder.
Yeah, just kind of, yeah.
If he was thinking like Pro Bowl, when he was at the Pro Bowl, I want to go for the pick and not worry about the tackle, he would have picked it off.
Yep.
So I wanted him to be Trevon Diggs. Just think about the INT. You're not going to be a tackler. And the Cowboys, to really help that out, just make sure you have safety help over the top because he ain't going to tackle.
Which, and you know what? If that's who he is, that's who he is. I'll take him. I'll take him shutting down a receiver. I'll take him getting the interceptions, but I'll still be that guy screaming at my TV when he's not making a tackle.
I think the weakest position on the Cowboys would be there's good arguments for everything, but I'm been leaning towards cornerback now. Not as an overall whole. Like not a specific player, just like where
after Anthony Brown went down, we saw.
What do you mean depth wise? You're kind of thinking
depth wise, and just like overall. I mean, you know what? I now I'm kind of thinking wide receiver.
I'm thinking linebacker. Okay, to me,
so
I'm going to say linebacker.
There's a lot of weaknesses. My point that I was trying to get to, that I just derailed myself on, was that. I can't.
Yeah,
I won't say his name. Deron Bland or Deron Bland.
How high are you right now?
Not high enough.
You're not get a hit of your vape. Get more stoned. And while you're doing that, let me get one of these. Crack them if you got them, son. Let's go.
But I just think he's going to be able to come in
Smoke weed every day.
There it is.
And have a great second year, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
Well, here's the thing. I'm always trying to look at this and say, I don't want this kid to go into a sophomore slump, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to give him too much praises. And I talked to Bland's father, and he's like, yeah, my son is always in the playbook, and he is a hard go-getter. But I'm going to make sure that he's hitting the reality check.
Yep.
And hopefully that will be the lifespan of Bland. I'll look at it like this. The slot position is one of the hardest parts of the field because you got two-way goals down inside the nickel. And we lost Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis. Those are two starters. Regardless of how many big plays Anthony Brown gave up, normally it would be one or two, but not three or four. So, yes, DB is something that we need to pay close attention to in this draft. So I hope that the Cowboys make the right decision. And if that Porter Jr. is there, Joey? Porter Jr.
Yeah, Joey, yep.
Don't think about it. Just pull the trigger and get the
pull the trigger.
Yeah, no, we did a mock draft last week at some point, and he was on the board. I mean, obviously it's PFF, it's just kind of random, but he was there, and I agree with you. He's that guy. He's got the length. He's athletic. He could definitely start right away, I think, for the Cowboys. And if he's there, you got to take him. A lot of people are saying he's going to be gone to like Pittsburgh or Washington, but if he's there, I think 100% you snag him.
Well, that's the thing is the planning is so important, and I feel really confident with the Cowboys front office. I mean, they've proven us, I don't watch a lot of other teams to like see how good they are compared to other teams, but it seems like they've done a lot of really good hits, especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
I'd say 10 years. Even 10 years. The Cowboys have been fairly decent. They've had a couple blunders, Morris Claiborne, they've had Taco Charlton. They've had a couple misses, but they've knocked it out of the park a bunch too.
And last year's number 1 pick, Tyler Smith, questionable kind of start, and then he just kind of steamrolled.
Well, the Cowboys fans were up in arms with that pick. They hated it, and the guy turned out to be
what we needed.
They ended up doing a redraft on NFL.com, and they had him going like 6th. So that speaks volumes right there.
Yeah. So with the 26th pick, I wouldn't be mad at.
Nice.
26th pick. The Dallas Cowboys select another tackle. Mm-hmm. You see, because we need to build the trenches.
Yep.
We need to figure out what we're going to do with Terrence Steele. We need to see whether or not Tyron Smith, think about that. He's $17 million against the cap, and he's 33 years of age. Do you continue to squeeze and pull that out too? Or do you look at it and say, with Tyler Smith, do you kick him back inside at guard, or do you keep him at tackle? And then we got a Pro Bowler named Tyler Biadasz now, right?
Yep.
He's a Pro Bowler now. So he's good, but what do you replace Connor McGovern with now?
Yeah, and it's important to give the quarterback the time. Basically, that O-line's just going to add on milliseconds to how much time we have to make a play, shape it, form it, and have it actually turn into positive.
And those guys get beat up. They get beat up, so you can just stockpile those bastards, and they'll eventually get playing time. There's no. If you take a tackle or a guard, I like you said, I'd probably rather take a tackle because I think we have a little bit more questions at tackle. There's no complaint for me if we even took a tackle. If he's the best player at that time at 26, take him.
It's not sexy, but it's definitely going to help with long term, especially if he's a guy that's able to play from day one. There's always that learning curve, but I was happy with Smith's development. Sam Williams from last year. I mean, he's been really interesting too. Lots of. Maybe
Potential?
it's because we just love him for whatever reason it is.
Well, for the limited play time that he got, he was always making splash plays. Like the guy wasn't getting a hell of a lot of snaps, and every time he was out there, he was doing something with them. So you got to expect another full year of offseason programming and being in the building, not having to deal with the draft process. The guy's gonna hopefully take leaps and bounds into year 2.
Yeah, but you got to get out of the political arena because Dorrance Armstrong, although he had a good year, you drafted Sam Williams in the second round.
Yep.
I need to see more playing time out of that guy that you drafted. Now this is another contract for Dorrance Armstrong. See, these 2-year deals, they are very, very sneaky. So he's on a contract year now. Also, J-Ron Curse, although he's going through off-season surgeries and stuff and cleanups, this is a contract year for him. So which direction will the Cowboys go into the 2023 season as it relates to drafting and free agency now?
So if it was you were saying you like Joey Porter Jr., but would that cornerback would be your kind of main focus in the first round if you were drafting?
Or tackle.
Yeah, tackle or CB, or is that, do you have something else you're thinking?
To me personally, it's still too soon because we got to let this free agency period go by.
Let the tumble start. Let the tumble of all that shit happen. Yeah.
Hell yeah, because you see the Saints, they're $60 million under, right? I think that the Rams are close to like 20 million under.
Wow. Jeez.
Let me pull it up right quick.
Pull it up.
The Rams are 20 million under with everything they. Well, I guess now it's been
14 million. It's 14 million under. But let me
Still
go in this order. It's a lot. Buccaneers 55.
Wow.
Vikings 23. Jags 22, Titans 21. And what I look at, I would sell my spleen right now for Marshawn Lattimore. You put Marshawn Lattimore on one side and you have Trayvon Diggs on the other. Let's go, baby.
Yeah. Yep.
It will help and improve the defensive front because now those are cover guys that can cover and Parson will be able to eat. If you go and get from the Titans that Simmons kid, that big boy down inside, it will help out everything for even. Parsons and that it will help out your linebackers. So I look at it from there because those teams are in fire sale movements right now or moments. And the Commanders, they got something to think about. Deron Payne is $20 million.
Yeah, he'd be nice. He'd be nice. He'd be nice. He'd be nice to have.
Nice.
Big dude.
How would you do that? Then you'd have to take on the contract or you take him and re-sign him? Like I know the NBA can do those sign and trade deals. Is that an option that the NFL can do or?
Well, these are all free agents.
Oh, sorry.
These are all upcoming free agents that are going to require a pretty penny. What about a guy would you take a run at a guy like Jalen Ramsey if you could make a deal? Is that something in the book too? Because he could imagine him with Diggs even. If you could put another top 10 cornerback on the Cowboys defense, I don't even know how teams would attack us in the air really.
Well, if you look
I would do that.
Yeah, I guess how much do you wait for? So if we're talking about defense right now and drafting, with DQ, with our boy Lieutenant Dan staying at the helm for the defensive coordinator position, what do you think how much of an impact in terms of what they're needing to do on the defense does DQ have coming into this draft for his free agency? Do you think that he's get me a Jalen Ramsey and we're going to go for it, or do you think it's just going to be one of those situations where we're just going to kind of draft it and not worry about it?
Well, he can look into that and say, hey, we want to win a Super Bowl. Let's go get it.
Yeah.
Let's go bring a known commodity in versus the unknown. I would rather deal with that versus saying, okay, maybe the other DB that we draft could be a Kelvin Joseph 2.0, a guy with high traits, high ceiling, but he fall flat on his face when it's time to cover somebody.
Right.
Kelvin Joseph gave up 4 touchdowns this year, and he was only playing a spoonful of games, right?
He only played 4 times.
Yeah, he played 4 snaps. That's what it felt like.
Right. So, and I don't want to throw shade at him, but those are the realities. There was a lot of red tape with him. So I want to make sure I go get a guy that I know that can cover every blade of grass, and there will be a Jalen Ramsey. There will be a Marshawn Lattimore. Or even if you have to get a poor man's Jalen Ramsey out of Byram Jones, bring him back for another cup of coffee because the Dolphins are $16 million under.
Yeah.
Bring him in.
Yeah.
So with what are the Cowboys at, by the way, right now? Law?
No room.
Yeah,
No room, right.
we're tapped
You don't
out.
have to extend.
We're tapped out
They're going
right
to
now.
figure out a way to free up space.
There's one way, and you know who it is.
Dak.
Zeke.
Dak Prescott.
Zeke.
So
Well,
you-
what? So you
extend him.
There'll be look, Dak Prescott, if you post anything about Dak Prescott, there'll be a third of the people saying he's trash,
Yep.
Prescott, he suck, he's horrible, he don't deserve the $40 million. Dak Prescott will break the internet if the Cowboys announce, let me play my breaking news music, because that's how it's going to sound. Breaking news out of Frisco, Texas. The Dallas Cowboys decided to extend Dak Prescott through the year of 2026. This would help alleviate the salary cap pains that we are going through right now. And Dak Prescott will be here for another 10 years. More news at 8.
this is my favorite channel.
This is my, I love this one. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. Like I've argued for Dak forever. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. Was this year a little bit frustrating? Yeah, it was, but it wasn't the norm. Like this wasn't how Dak normally looked. I always believe that he takes care of the football most of the time. This year was, I'm still sold on Dak Prescott. And if the Cowboys did go that way, it makes me feel like they're trying to win now. They're trying to get money to bring in a couple pieces. And if that's the way to do it, then do it, right?
Like whenever the conversation of Dak comes up, I can see it because I was frustrated as well this year with some of his play. But when you take the step back and look at the like instead of the micro, look at the macro. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
You see a good performance. You see a quarterback who can play in the NFL, and then it turns to like, okay, if you want to give that up, who are you going to get? People online, and maybe I was one of them at one time, but you go out there and the answer is just like, well, we see some funny tweets. I'm sure, Law, you must see many more than us, but it's like, oh, just go out and draft a Lamar Jackson type of quarterback. It's like, that's the plan, man. But like, we have to live in reality. Okay, who do you replace him with? And right now, there's really no better option. And re-signing him, if we can restructure, absolutely. It all comes down to Jerry having a two-lane focus. You want a quarterback who can be long-term with your team 10 plus years, like ideally, right? Lock him in. He's in the system. He performs well. But then you also have those short-term window where it's like, if we don't win by this year, next year, we need to revamp a lot of these positions. So there was that article, or maybe it was a couple articles where Jerry Jones said he's thinking long term while the Eagles go all in.
Jerry's feeling like he's 55, not fucking 100.
I know, well,
150 or whatever he is.
But I think that it is a little concerning because number one, Jerry, come on now.
Long term. What's long term for you, dude? Like,
but the NFL teams have kind of sorry, Jerry, but the NFL teams have kind of proven that, hey, putting all your chips in works to win Super Bowls nowadays.
The Eagles, they've basically they've revamped themselves completely since the last time they were in the Super Bowl, in 2017. So Jerry said that the Eagles are all in right now, but it's like, do they not have 2 first-round picks next year?
No. You get lucky with that quarterback. Kansas. I'm not going to say lucky, but your investment pays off.
They have a great deal right now with Jalen Hurts. Same
with Kansas City. You know. I think, right?
What propelled the Eagles to that, we have 2 issues on this team. The franchise tag crippled us because there was no ability to prorate and stretch that money out. We had $94 million in the year 2020, but we franchise tagged Dak Prescott. And what happened? All of that money hit, and then we paid him the next following year.
Right.
The problem is with that also is that when Dak Prescott was able to do his contract, he followed his buddy, Ezekiel Elliott, with the no trade clause. So those two things are an impediment for the Cowboys organization because we can't dangle the trade in front of any of the other 31 other teams because there's a no trade clause for Zeke and there's a no trade clause for Dak Prescott. So when you look at how the Eagles got from under Carson Wentz, they were able to trade him to the Colts, get multiple things back in return. They still had to hit and eat some of that dead money, but they were able to breathe and utilize Jalen Hurts as their quarterback and then use some of that money because remember, at the start of the season last year, they had $22 million and we had $22 million. We decided to franchise tag Dalton Schultz. Remember, you can't spread that money out. And they went and got A.J. Brown and a trough of other weapons over there. And look how that looked for them right now.
Exactly. And to me, I don't like that's what everything you just said. That I feel like that isn't selling out. I feel like that's just being a great organization. Right. It feels like they're playing 4D chess. Crack them if you got them. But it feels like they're playing like what they're doing over there. And rewind a little bit. You're talking about Carson Wentz. They still went out and drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round, was it?
Yeah.
The Cowboys, I could never imagine them ever, with Dak being in the building, drafting a quarterback in the second round. I just don't ever see it happening.
On the quarterback and drafting, Law, how much weight do you put to Jerry Jones saying that they're committed to drafting quarterbacks moving forward, like in the draft?
Last great quarterback they drafted was in 1989, I believe. His name is Troy Aikman. That's 34 years ago. Their track record of drafting quarterbacks, terrible. Because they never drafted another quarterback since then. Earlier or what have you, outside of Quincy Carter. And on top of that, when you look at everything, we've been horrid at quarterback. Look, Tony Romo was an undrafted guy. We fell into Tony Romo goodness and graces for this team and the franchise and organization, and they really were not really sold on Dak Prescott. So it's rough, man, being a Cowboy fan, thinking that they're going to draft somebody good when they had Paxton Lynch with the big old eyes. Wasn't his name Paxton?
It was Lynch. Yep, Lynch.
Lynch or something like that.
Which is great. That's that we missed out on him.
Yeah, that's who they wanted.
Yeah.
Well, and
I forgot Stephen McGee. Who remember him?
Yeah, Stephen McGee. What about DiNucci, bro?
That hat go hard.
Yeah, that hat is sick. The upside down Dallas hat. I do like those hats.
Our boy Barry Grant Jr. says they drafted Drew Henson.
Yep.
Right. Ooh. Don't remind me, man.
But this is how Jerry's going to play it. He's just going to use the final one or two picks to draft a quarterback every year and be like, see,
San Fran did like Brock Purdy.
I honestly don't hate it. AJ, get one in there. I'll get one in there. Crack him if you got him, baby. Crack him if you got him. I think you got to draft a quarterback. Why not? Why not try to strike some gold? We got tons of picks in the fifth. Why not snag a quarterback at that point and just have them there? I don't know.
That big Amari Cooper trade, they gave us that nice juice in the fifth round, right? Am I right?
Don't bring that up.
Max Duggan, baby.
Yeah.
Max Duggan,
Well, that's hilarious because I do think we got a smart front office, but then that's the question mark is like, I understand with Cooper unloading the contract and getting rid of that money.
Oh, it would have been nice to have him this year. It would have been so nice to have Amari Cooper this year, man.
Fifth is like what you get for fucking
they botched
backup guard.
They showed that they wanted to get rid of Amari Cooper and they were willing to just take anything. Yeah. And then like all offseason, there was just these blockbuster trades for wide receivers. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, Amari Cooper got traded. My ESPN app goes off and it's like fifth round. I almost whipped my fucking phone at a wall.
Like, that must be a typo. That
must like be fifth round. I'm like cleaning the screen. Like fifth round for Amari Cooper. Good on the Browns though. They fleeced us.
Yeah, they fleeced us real good. But my thing is with this is I was talking to someone and they said it's right. We replaced Amari Cooper with CeeDee Lamb, but we still didn't replace CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah,
Because
right.
What happened is with James Washington, Jalen Tolbert, they couldn't hold a candle to that. And we had to understand this too with Michael Gallup. Come on. He coming off of an ACL.
Yep.
Around this time, he wasn't working out, practicing and things like that. So we can't head into the 2023 season saying, you know what? We good with our wide receivers. We got to get somebody.
Definitely. Where do you start looking? Round 2, round 3, or is it just if there's one of their top prospects happens to be there, just take them? Like when would you? And do you have any guys that you're kind of got your eye on?
I got a sleeper in the later rounds, like third round or what have you. His name is Jonathan Mango.
Okay.
I like what he brings to the table. He's from Ole Miss. He kind of patterned his game after DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. He's a big physical.
I was gonna say
tall wide receiver.
Is he jacked? Does he look like he's
jacked.
Is he? Yeah. DK Metcalf.
6'1", he's about 225, so he's a big boy.
Oh wow, that's like Anquan Bolden-esque.
He
I
got
like
good
big
feet.
body receivers. I like that.
Yeah. I like Rashid Rice too. He was killing it in the Senior Bowl or what have you, and he's about 6'2.5", and I can't wait to see his combine numbers. And he's fast. He's elusive. His name is Rashid Rice.
Yeah, I'd like to see a big-bodied guy that we can just send up. Well, especially with the West Coast coming at us here, going across the middle. Let's get a guy that's going to go across the middle, put his head down, and take a couple pops and pick up some first downs. I would love that.
And last year and by we I mean Adam and Anth went to the NFL draft, kind of with, I'm going to say, comparatively to today, very low knowledge of who the hell's in the NFL.
We don't
draft.
really watch being in Canada. We don't really have a college team that we root for. Really,
it's like you got to really search.
The coverage isn't as big.
There's pretty much very low coverage. But now
the games they have on are like terrible. Usually, it's like Army versus I don't even know. It's just the most random teams that no one's ever heard of when they put American college football on up here.
but exactly. But that's the funny thing is you start to. It's difficult because there are so many teams, and I really don't even understand the quality level yet. Oh, this team is not as good quality as that.
You mean
that
like their ranking, their national ranking?
When they're obviously the ranking's easy when they're ranked, but
if one's above 8, it's the one's better.
Like that's obvious. But then there's tons of unranked teams, and you see a lot of those players who play for them. But it's really interesting to see like this last kind of three months, I guess, whatever the stretch is from when they do this, the college pro game until the draft, how a player's value can change.
Oh yeah, well,
so drastic,
especially after the combine. Like you get someone go out there. Like I've been watching a lot of tape on that Jalen Hyatt guy. If he goes out and runs like a 4.2 something, that he's gonna shoot up every board instantly, right? Like he'll be a mid 1, early 2 type guy.
They see that, they're like, oh, this guy can run fast. Just get him in a straight line in this play and in that play, and boom.
So Law, I got a question for you. Who's your college team? Are you from the Dallas area?
No, I'm from Mississippi.
Oh, so, crazy. So you were Dak Prescott fan then when he was before Cowboy then?
I heard whispers of him taking the team all the way from some rank, and then they became number 1 rank in the country. And I was like, wow, who is this guy? And it was Dak Prescott. But I went to JSU. I graduated from Jackson State University.
Oh, nice.
So shout out to Prime Time. He made it fun over there for the last 2 years. Now he's going to Colorado. But I root for all of the Mississippi teams, Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Well, we don't really have a college team. I guess we got to kind of pick one.
Yeah, we have to just basically throw a dart at a map of the states and just pick one. I'm going to end up hitting like, I don't know, does Alaska have any teams? I'll get shafted somehow.
So we do an annual trip on Thanksgiving to the Cowboys game, and this year we ended up hitting 2 because we went to Minnesota and then drove down to Dallas, and then also next year as well we're thinking of. Obviously doing that same trip and then going to the Super Bowl because it's in Vegas.
Super Bowl's in Vegas, baby.
And
Vegas.
I mean, that's going to be a party in itself. So just wondering, Law, how many games do you hit up a year, or like what's kind of your routine? as you will.
Normally I hit up preseason games. I never been to a game where we won. So
Wow.
0-8.
We
0-8.
0-8. So I'm very superstitious. So, but this year coming around, I'm planning on going to more games and due to sponsors and everything like that. So I'm gonna be at the game. So I'm gonna break that curse.
Break
if
the
Jerry
curse.
Jones can put Jimmy Johnson in the ring, I think he will break a curse.
He has to do it. I'm starting to believe in this thing. Get Jimmy up in that Ring of Honor so we can win a Super Bowl, man.
I mean, it's obvious now, right?
It's obvious. That's the only reason. I'm buying into it. I'm buying into it.
So I got a question then. So you're in the Frisco area. When did you start? When did you get and why did you get into talking with the Cowboys? And what was that like? Give me some, but we call it behind baseball on this podcast. Give me some behind baseball on Law Nation Sports.
Well, it started off at first. I was, of course, I was in Mississippi when I was doing the play-by-play analysis and everything. And then my job kind of moved to Dallas, and I was like, shoot, this is life right here. And I met up with a guy that do meet and greets with fans or what have you, fan ultimate experience called Cowboys Experience. And I got a chance to meet up with players, and it was Drew Pearson. And I did a video with him, and then that gave me all type of new insights to do this right here. And now I just don't do film analysis. I'm kind of like a public, what you call that? Public
figure?
Public
figure. Yeah, public figure now.
Cowboys
No
advocate.
matter where I go, I'm a Cowboys super fan without all of the paint on his face. So that's who I am. And it's been pretty good so far. I talk my stuff. I go live for 2 or 3 hours a day. I break down film. This is the life right here. Being able to talk and spit about Cowboys is wonderful.
Oh, definitely, man. And it's such a cool thing I've said to the guys, we've met so many people through doing even just doing our little podcast thing and traveling down to the States. And it's just such a huge community and everyone's just so awesome about it. Like you find all these nasty ass Cowboys fans online. Yeah. I'm yet to meet one in person. It feels like.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they exist in person though.
Right.
Because everywhere I go, it's much love, especially when I go to training camp. I hope you guys can get a chance to go out there. Oxnard got beautiful weather, by the way. And maybe we can get something sponsored so we can all parlay and have a great time.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that'd be epic.
That. We keep growing, man. Look, everybody's one video away from being the next Joe Rogan. So that's how I look at it. If Joe can do it, we can do it.
That's right. Absolutely.
We get out there to Oxnard and we have a great time because all of the people, they don't like the Cowboys at all. They love them.
Yep. And I've watched countless videos. I've actually watched a bunch of your footage from last year down there. It does just look like a great time down there.
Yeah, it is. And I just want Jerry Jones, wonderful job of getting fan engagement going. But at times, I think he got too many hats on.
Right.
And you need to simplify it because when you look at other teams, there's only one GM. We got pretty much 2.5 GM.
Yeah.
We got Jerry versus Jerry Jr., who is really John Stephen Jones, although Jerry Jr. is the other guy. But you got Stephen Jones and Jerry. They may have a thought or a mindset to say, this is who I want, this is who we need. And then they lean on partially with Will McClay.
Yep.
I think that you need to have one thought that's going in at GM, and I think that you will see a temperament of this team being more unified.
Plot twist. I am Steven.
Yeah, I think that's been a thing with Cowboys fans and wanting that for years. And Jerry just does not want to let that go. I don't know if he's, like you said, with him and Stephen Jones, they're basically a hive mind, right? I think he's kind of given up a little bit of it compared to recent or past years. And I'm just glad we have Will McClay, but I would like to see Will McClay just be given the keys to the car and let him take it out for a rip instead of Jerry kind of looming over everything he does.
I think that what we got to realize about Jerry Jones too, though, and this is why Cowboys fans want him out, I'm sure. He came into a team and won 3 Super Bowls and then made the best. He is one of the best business marketers in the world.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's what he ultimately cares about. Yeah, Super Bowls he wants and for his own ego, absolutely.
As long as
But-
they're not done long term.
Yeah, but none of it matters if the Cowboys aren't where they are. So
Here's how it goes. I think that Jerry Jones is that wildcatter, as he said he is. I think that what's happening is that Stephen Jones is the one saying, hey, I know you got the Charles Haley deal. I got into fisticuffs with you with the Deion Sanders pickup. But remember, I think that Stephen Jones keep doing this to Jerry. Say, remember the Joey Galloway.
Yep.
Remember the Roy Williams. Remember the Brandon Hughes car deal. So
Yeah.
he's going into all of that and reminding him that, hey, Dad, I'm the dude. Remember, you wanted to draft it, Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, Money Manziel, yep.
Yeah, Money Manziel. So I'm the one that you need to listen to. I'm the one, Dad. Don't do it.
Daddy, don't
be
do
that
it. Come on,
wildcatter,
Daddy, don't be the wildcat.
So Jerry need to tell his son, he need to tell him.
Your damn act together. I like your attitude.
wait,
He need to tell him that.
so who is it that you would prefer, Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones in controlling captaining the ship?
Well, I think that Jerry Jones would have pulled the trigger on Randy Moss. I think that Jerry Jones would have been the guy that's more on the Wildcat side. I think that Jerry Jones would have looked at this year and said, or the past year and said, go give me a DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Go give me a DJ Moore. I don't care about the cost. I'm 80, man.
Okay.
Yeah, so now that's the question. Do you think it's Jerry Jones or Stephen Jones and the publicist saying that he's thinking long-term while the Eagles are thinking going all in?
I think Jerry's just rambling in front of a camera. To be honest, he's just
what time is it?
he's just giving himself a little copium right now. That's all it is.
Dude, think of this. Think of the stories that came out. Like anytime, like OBJ is a great.
Oh my God,
tale.
we don't need to
The
bring up those
whining
three
and
letters.
dining that went on with that, and I 100% believe that Jerry Jones was like, "Oh yeah, this is just to keep us in the news. I'm not going to sign this guy. He's not even going to play this year." And then what happens? I think the timing lines up. They go out and get T.Y. Hilton instead.
Yep.
So,
Right.
Which I liked. I mean, I still like T.Y.
he was worth his signing just for that
I think
third
it's
and
worth
30
keep,
catch.
Keep him alone. Get him. Sign him for next year. Sign him for another 2 years. I think Ty is good to go for us. At least at least if we start to weaponize the wide receiver core. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously we don't want to get him for too much, but I know I'm a Ty fan after.
Yeah, but if you're TY, I'd do the same thing. I'd just sit out of everything till December and then just
come back,
hop into a playoff contender and play my 4 or 5 games. Like that's the life right there as a 34-year-old,
It's funny.
soon to be 34-year-old wide receiver.
It's funny that you see that you're seeing that now. Like I don't remember seeing players doing that before, where they're like, you know what, I can get paid reasonably close to the same amount I would for a full year if I just wait until and then like have you seen that? Is that like very common in the
I mean, you'll
NFL,
see kind of stuff like that occasionally, but I'm sure T.Y. Hilton probably could have signed with someone earlier in the year, and this is one of the rare times that it was his choice to sit out till December. So I think you're right. You don't really see it very often where a guy just comes in at the very, very end. It's usually a dude that's been trying to get on a team for the whole time. I'm almost positive T.Y. had suitors prior to December.
Mm-hmm.
He just picked this time to come back in December. So yeah, super rare.
Well, super rare.
Well, moving forward, then I guess to maybe wrap this baby up, let's what are kind of some standout things that need to happen this offseason here? Let's say between just free agency and the draft here. What are we hoping for? What do we want to see? Things that keep popping up in your dreams or potentially your nightmares that you need to get off your chest.
So here's
one or two.
Besides the OBJ talk, the last thing, the thing that constantly hear, and we saw our boy Tony Goat Romo do it. Aaron Rodgers, the whole thing about the Pro Bowl, he didn't say no. He said no to San Francisco, didn't say no to Dallas.
He's not, get that out of your brain, right? I'm telling you right now, Aaron Rodgers is not.
Isn't
No,
for you.
I'm telling you right now. Like, don't even bring that smut onto the show.
Ant's coming into your dream and he's shaking you up.
I don't want to hear from you, Ant. I want to hear from Law. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers? And I'm not, and like, look,
Right.
He was my fantasy football quarterback. Whatever. The whole Iowa. I think there's too much drama for this 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers to come to the Cowboys. But do you think it's even an entertaining fact that he makes his way over to the Dallas Cowboys?
It would be very entertaining. $50 million quarterback right now, and then we are pretty much. If it would be understandable if we didn't have the trade clause with Dak Prescott, right? That would be understandable where we can make a trade or force a trade with Dak. But by him not having that ability to trade him, and on top of that, the dead money being $89 million to cut Dak to
Jeez.
that is the major problem there. So I don't see Aaron Rodgers. And can you imagine Aaron Rodgers got to reach out to Roger Staubach to say, "Can I wear that number 12?"
Yeah, right. No doubt that'd be good. So I hate Aaron Rodgers. I can't stand his face. I can't stand his attitude. But like you said, there's no way Dak Prescott is not at least the Dallas Cowboys quarterback for the next 2 seasons. It's just he's 100% going to be the quarterback
because
of the contract.
Okay, Law, what about Dalton Schultz? Do you keep him? I know you don't like the franchise tag. What do you think about Schultz? Do you like him?
Travis Kelce just came out and said that Jake Ferguson is reminding him of him. So I don't want to slow down that process. So I'm going to have to let Dalton Schultz go. Don't unblock me and block me again, Dalton Schultz. Keep me alive, man.
Oh, you got unblocked?
You got him. How did you get unblocked? Because he blocked us.
He blocked us.
We got blocked, man.
I was out there trying to camp. I was giving him praises. I think he blocked me by accident. He might block me again.
He definitely blocked us on purpose.
Yeah. Which is like...
Funny thing is, if Schultz is watching a show, he's watching this one.
Well, yeah,
Right.
We all 2021 season we were
diehard Schultz fans.
Diehard, and it was just like one post, and then all of a sudden he's like, block. And it's like, what? Schultz.
But
all right.
Let me tell y'all something about Schultz. In Oxnard, in training camp, he's the first one out there, and he's the last one to leave. He does the ball drill, and he stay there extra. He's a hardworking guy. I think that sometimes you look back at him, and you would say, man, we thought that we was getting this guy, and then we got that guy because he blocked really good. He ran routes really good. And then we were like, forget Jeff Swain. What about this dude? Forget Blake Jarwin. What about this dude? Dalton Schultz. And he showed up big time for us. But for right now, from a contract aspect of it, if you sign him, you got to pay him north of Dallas Goddard, and you got to pay him right around the APY where Travis Kelce is getting. I look at it like right now, hey, man, we love your services. We got to see what we can get out of Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot right now.
Yeah, I agree that I'm a fan of Fergie and Hendershot. We kind of call the tight ends the clone zone in here. So if they're all clones off of Jason Witten, if the number one clone needs to go to make room for 2, 3, and 4, with the rest of the boys.
The clones are supposed to get better, right?
Yeah. Cowboys only draft the same looking tight ends. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. It is what it is.
Sean McEwen, baby. Don't sleep on Sean McEwen.
No, he's great blocker. He's very good blocker, and he's kind of sneaky out there too. But he looks the exact same as the rest of them.
Right.
Look, if Hendershot and Ferguson can keep pace with what they showed last year, they will, as a duo, outperform Schultz. It's the blocking, I guess, but we saw Schultz improve. But the year prior. So last year,
2021.
That was like a huge concern.
Yeah. Well, they kept scheming him stupid though. They weren't doing him any favors. But like Law said, he's definitely priced himself out of being on the Cowboys.
I think
next year.
I think if you want things to happen and improve elsewhere, then you need to do that exact thing and put your trust in Ferguson and Hendershot to battle it out, and McKeon. I think he is part of the clone zone. So
yeah. And one of the things that I got to say this about Mike McCarthy and his offense, he know how to finesse those tight ends. Think about Jermichael Finley. Think about even when he had Jimmy Graham for a cup of coffee. You got to look at ways that Mike McCarthy knows how to work those tight ends, and I believe he played tight end in college. So Mike McCarthy going to be okay with those boys.
Oh, definitely.
3,000 cheeseburgers earlier. He was excited in college.
He can't run no routes now.
No, he ain't running. No,
Well, he's running a route right to fucking Chick-fil-A or something like that. That's what he's.
Sponsor us, Chick-fil-A. Come on,
Chick-fil-A, we want it.
I would love if Mike took a hands-on approach to practice and started getting in the backfield.
Running routes.
Hey, let me just show you how this is done.
He's like the Rock from the Gridiron Gang. He shows up in full gear. All right, you guys got to get through me. I thought you were a tight end. Fucking all
Be
small.
like Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn put the helmet on and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Pay money to see Mike McCarthy with the helmet, and you got to have the belly hanging.
Oh,
over.
yeah.
Belly would be out. Belly would be hanging out. 100%.
Crop top like Zeke. He comes in with a crop top like Zeke. He's like, just trying to get my snaps, fellas. Just trying to get my snaps. Okay, so you
did too.
I did too. Why don't you?
We don't have to do the round robin, but
What we giving it?
Well,
We're
we're
giving
just
out
kinda
questions.
like-
What I think we need to going into the
two
season
things
or the
that keep
off-season
coming
here?
to your mind that like either that you want or you're fearful of.
For me, I'm kind of still. I've been kind of in this weird wormhole of doing all these crack them if you got them.
Whoa!
I've been in this weird wormhole of doing all these mock draft, and I want us to get better in the interior on the defensive line. I just don't see us picking anyone in the draft to do that. And I just feel like no matter what we do, we're always going to have that weakness in the middle of the field until we address it in the draft. And we just never want to. And I don't know, Law, if you have any guys that you can think of off the top of your head, but I saw at the end of the year or at the start of the year also when Hankins was in the middle of the field, how much a difference that guy made. And he wasn't even considered a premier defensive tackle, right? So I just feel like I want to see us get better on the interior.
LVE went out too.
Yeah, and LVE out. Like there's another guy like that. There's going to be, do we bring LVE back? He had a great season last year. I really hope we can kind of keep the same unit that we had last year for next year on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, let me talk about this in two forms, Dan. We need another linebackers coach, and I got one that we need to bring back home. His name is Ken Norton Jr. I think that he's coaching over there at UCLA. Come on, Dan Quinn.
Yep.
Pick up the phone, call Ken, bring him back over here in Dallas. The last time we won a Super Bowl I think he was on the roster, I believe.
He was.
So we need to figure out a way to bring Ken Norton over here in a coaching capacity to help out these linebackers. I've seen too many healthy scratches from Jabril Cox, so I need to see him out there and see what we can get out of that. And you're right. The thing is with defensive tackle, you got to have patience with those guys. If you're not drafting one real super early, then you don't know what you're going to get because they may have the size, they may have the strength, but they don't have the NFL strength. So normally that takes 2 to maybe 3 years. I'm like, I don't want to wait that long. The last time we had a guy from the interior to get double-digit sacks was Jason Hatcher. That's been many moons ago, y'all.
Yep.
So let's bring in and go grab a veteran. Not a long in the tooth guy like Jonathan Hankins, but maybe you go out there and you scoop up and get a Dayron Payne.
That'd be. I would love that. I would love that. 100%. Payne is he's the exact type of player that the Cowboys have been missing, and he's Jason Hatcher, like you said, had double-digit sacks, but Payne's on another level than him, right? So you pair him with Damone Clark, LVE if we bring him back, Micah Parsons. I just think that makes everybody else on the defense better, and we haven't had that in the last 10 years. It feels like.
Think about this. Osa quietly had a nice season.
Osa's, Osa did. We're big fans of Osa. Osa had a great season.
A bunch of guys showed a lot of really bright spots this year, and maybe it is just because they didn't get enough playing time that we didn't see that they didn't stand out for a lot of the season. I'd like to see that, and I don't have a list in my head, but I just remember. Like Sam Williams was one, Osa's another, of course. Armstrong,
Yep.
Yeah.
Fowler played well.
Off and on.
Fowler had his moments.
I think Fowler's gone, unfortunately, but
the Canadian bulldozer, Neville Gallimore, he he didn't do what I wanted.
He stepped back. He took a step back. I thought this year. I thought he was prime this year. What is it? Is his third year this year? I thought, or fourth possibly. I thought this was going to be his, because he had a decent 2021. I was kind of expecting him to kind of hit that next level this year, and I think he was a healthy scratch for a couple games at the end of the season.
It was him versus Tristan Hill, and I thought for sure they was going to give him the axe, but we end up giving Tristan Hill that axe. And one of the things I can look at with Gallimore was he's a 3-tech guy. Of course, he's wide and big, but him trying to play that 1-tech, he just got gobbled up inside too much.
Just knocked off the line of the scrimmage and then just didn't have a chance at it. Yeah, you
What's
need
the
a
1-tech, 3-tech? What's this?
He's asking for a friend. Tell him.
Just asking for a friend.
Well, the 3-tech shoot through the B gap. Well, but let me say this. You got double A gaps, and then you have B gap and C gap. The 3-tech 9 times out of 10 shoots through the outside shoulder of the guards, and they shoot through that B gap. The 1-tech is the guys that lined up pretty much in between the A gap, and that's closer between the center. So you got the center, you got 2 guards. So the 1-tech primarily is to shoot through those gaps. Now you do have big boys like nose tackles, like a big Vita Vea who plays at 0, and that is lining right over the center. So we don't have that big burly guy outside of Jonathan Hankins who can only give you probably about 30 snaps at most, right?
Yeah.
Because he's long in the tooth, he's a big boy, and we just don't have that big guy. Big Bo, he's still growing into that big body frame. So it may be a good year for Big Bo this season, but I don't see him being a double-digit sack guy like a Deron Payne or like all of those boys that we mentioned, like a Javon, what's his name, is Hargrave for the Eagles.
Yeah, and yet we just don't have that, and we haven't had it for forever, and it would be I think it's a good time to do it. It's a good strategy. We have other pieces in place. We're just missing that right now.
It's interesting because it's either, is it the player didn't have enough time, or were they not playing him because he wasn't performing?
In what regard do you mean? Just like
why we saw those players come up, any player really, but why you see them come up, perform in a game, but then they don't continue to play.
Oh, like, so you're saying for instance, for Gallimore, like he had 2021, he was kind of trending up and then kind of disappeared this year. Is that what you mean?
Well, that's, I guess maybe if he's not performing, it's more obvious, but when you see the players that when they play, they perform, but then their play snap doesn't increase really significantly, then you wonder, like, okay, is it just because they're capitalizing on opportunity and that's great and that's how we want to utilize them, or is it because they're not showing up and performing well in all the other things that are off field and they're, coaches are making a decision that way?
Well, let me say this then. When you're talking about like 3-tech to 1-tech and why they perform at one size and not perform at another, when you are a guy like Neville Gallimore, he's wide, he's a big boy. You may look at him and you may think that he looks like he's 330 or 340 pounds, but technically he's only like 295 to 306, and your average 1-tech is right at 320 to 330, close to 345. These big boys down inside. So what happened here is that big weight 9 times out of 10 comes with strength. And now that you got a guy that's playing out of position, it's kind of like asking your power forward in basketball to play center. And you will see things that they may win on certain downs as passing downs, but when they get down to rushing, they get thrown out of the club because they just not strong enough to anchor in. And the problem is with the Cowboys is that we dismiss the defensive tackle, that big boy down inside with strength.
Yeah, Ridgeway.
We got a lot of like a Ridgeway that's willing to eat and fight and gobble up too and push the pocket back. We dismissed that, and we had guys like Gallimore trying to play a position that he's really not accustomed to. He was a 2-gap guy coming out of OU, and he was more of a 1-gap, but he's a 2-gap guy, but he's not really a 2-gappy guy in the NFL, and he's not that strong. And I'm not calling him weak, but we've seen it on tape of him get moved out of the way. So the problem is with all of that is that we just don't have that big boy in there. And what we try to do is to fabricate pressure with twist stunts. So when you twist stunt and you run that direction, that's a big gaping hole, and you see what happened out of that via the Green Bay Packer game.
Yep.
When we can't stop the run.
Yep.
Would you have cut Ridgeway?
I wouldn't have cut Ridgeway. I would have, if I've seen all what I've seen out of Tristan Hill, then he was the older guy in there, and I would have sacrificed Tristan Hill before I'd sacrifice a 5th round draft pick. Was it Ridgeway a 5th round draft pick?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, he was one of the I think we had the 4 last year. He was one of them. And he had that attitude. Like he was. I think he body slam. There was a video of him like full on body slamming someone. I was like, man, we let this guy just go. Like,
I like a little meanness on defense.
I like some meanness, man, especially at that right up there. Get in there and throw. It's like kind of Sioux action. Just get in there and just be a big old attitude and just. I'm mad that we let that guy go.
We seen all what we need to see out of Tristan Hill.
Yeah,
I would have sacrificed him, and Ridgeway still was the area of the unknown. At least let the man play out his rookie year.
Especially in hindsight, knowing you cut him anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and he got cut. And our boy Boots on the Ground, Eric, in the chat saying Vanilla Grill balled for Washington.
Yeah, he played great for Washington. He played. He was decent. He got in there. He got a bunch of snaps. Hey, so Law, let's get you to give us a shout out. I'm sure anyone that's in our chat right now already knows who you are. You are, I think, are the biggest Cowboys content creator right now. Anyone that you talk to watches your stuff. We watch a bunch of your stuff. We like the way that you've. You do your game breakdown. You do everything, and we really appreciate having you on the show. But if you want to tell anyone that doesn't know who you are, where you're at, if you want to kind of shout your socials are out there, and then we'll hop out of here.
Most certainly. My name is Law Nation Sports. Well, Law Nation, you can find me under Law Nation Sports at lawnationsports.com, as well as Law Nation Sports on Twitter, Twitch, as well as YouTube and Facebook. I'm on Amazon and Roku. I'm everywhere, man. I'm like in the ether, man. I'm everywhere. Law Nation Sports, man. The beard, you see my face, name, and logo. We're going to talk Cowboys football and beyond. I never get tired. It seems as if though it's multiple means, but it just wasn't me.
Maybe you're the clone zone. Maybe there's a bunch of you running around. All right, man. Appreciate having you on. The bandwagon boys over there and Anthbest over here. We'll be back Wednesday. We're going to be live streaming the Super Bowl. It's going to get messy. We're going to be drinking a lot, not really paying attention to much, yelling, fuck the Eagles.
Fuck the Eagles.
All right, peace.